Alright guys, episode 5 of the Duck Chronicles. I wanted to start out clearing up some misconceptions. I'm a little further back right now, so it's less of a problem than it's been. But some of you guys have been asking, are they cold? Are they a little bit too huddled in the back? Please put yourself in these little baby guys, little baby girls actually, place. To them, I am a giant alien with a hand that cometh and taketh away and bringeth thy food. And that little blue box they're in is their entire world to them right now. So when I move over, you know, it's just natural that they all scurry to the other side. And I come in close so you can try to see them a little bit better. But as you can see, they're moving around. And the other thing about the cold thing, guys, look at it. A baby duck being mothered by its mother does not spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 to 4 weeks underneath its mom. They get out, they move around and leave. They probably spend a lot less time underneath the mother's wing than they spend underneath a heat lamp in a brooder. And they're not chickens. These are not tropical creatures. These guys are born in temperate climates in the wild, in their wild versions, and they do very well in the cold. And you don't want them to get too cold, especially when they're in this fluffy... See if I can get close without scaring anybody. I'll just use the phone and not me. The fluffy yellow stage before they have feathers, if they get wet and cold, I mean, that can kill them. As long as they have a warm, dry place to go, and the other thing is they huddle because they want to. At this age, they all huddle up on top of each other. When we raised the last batch, I have pictures of 2 of them sitting on Buddy the Goose's back because she was bigger than the rest of them, and they thought she was mom. So they just like to be close together. Let's talk about the numbers and the weight gain. So yesterday our average was 2.33 ounces. Today our average is 2.725. That means we have an average weight gain per baby duck of 0.395. When you look at the total weight, so you take that number times 50, we're at 136.25 ounces over 116.5 yesterday, 16.9% gain in a 24-hour period. Not as big as the gain yesterday of 28%, but still pretty significant. I also want to tell you guys that the title of this episode is... One less duck alive. So again, they sent us an extra duck, which is common, and the one we showed you yesterday, she just didn't make it. It came time we just had to decide it was time to go ahead and euthanize her, and that's part of the dark side of keeping animals. And you could say to yourself, well, I'm going to try to get her through it. When you got a bird that won't eat, it's never eaten, it's 5 days old, that means it's gone 5 days without food and barely taking any water, can't hold its head up. You're not doing it any favors. You take the responsibility, you do what needs to be done. You're not going to save an animal like that. It's just not going to happen. Then the next thing I want to talk about is this is not meant to be like this is how you should brood ducks. This is a proof of concept for solving some problems. And as we go through the Duck Chronicles, I'll talk about how to scale this up. I don't know that I ever will, because let me tell you the best way to brood ducks. Don't do it. Let mom do it. And that's part of why we have Muscovies in our flock, and as we need to expand our flock, you know, 20, 30 ducks a year, maybe as we're doing some culling as they get older, we should be able to have no problem getting broody ducks to take care of the babies. That's the best way to do it. But if you want to brood ducks a lot, and you're brooding in production either to sell the ducks to other people that want to own ducks, or you're selling them for meat or what have you, then you need to have a regular, reliable kind of production timeline. And brooding like this is the only way to do that. So if you were going to be bringing in every so many weeks a new batch of, let's say, 200 Pekins or jumbo Pekins for meat production, then you'd want a much larger brooder, first of all, and you'd want to stage things out so that they're going to pasture, and at about 12 to 14 weeks, those birds are big enough to go ahead and process. Some of the Pekins you could be processing at 10 to 11 weeks, even faster. What I would actually do is I would build a brooder about as big as 4 of these for 100, at least as big as 4 of these for 100 birds. I would build it out of either poured concrete walls or stacked cinder block, and I would make the reservoir for the water much deeper and able to be taken out from underneath, kind of like a bird cage. And I would make an insert for it where you could pull it up out of the floor and not have to get in there to clean it out. And I would probably put in some type of temporary dividing system where you could cut it up into little miniature paddocks. Not so much for daily use, but for when you're cleaning, you could exclude them so you don't step on one of the poor little girls or guys when you're working. So that's kind of how I would set that up. The other thing I would do is a totally different watering system, and you'll see what I would do in a brooder on small scale. On a much bigger scale, as I build this out for the ducks in the field, I would take a pipe and I would level a pipe straight across on a horizontal. I would core holes in it big enough for birds to stick their heads into the pipe. Cap both ends of the pipe and put a float valve on it. And that would let the pipe fill up just below where those holes are, and I'd put a reservoir off to the side. And that way, as they drank the water, it would refill. But since they can only get their heads in there instead of their feet in there, they can't make a mess. The other thing I wanted to let you know before we wrap up today, so I've got a new policy. Every morning when I come out, these waterers are empty, and it's time to clean out those trays. But I don't clean out the trays. I fill the waterers. I let them go crazy, because the first thing they do when you put new water in there, they're not afraid of the giant anymore, man. They're all up in there. They make a huge mess out of everything. And then when that whole water party chills out, the things are almost empty, I take them away, and then I clean those trays. If they're going to jack them up that bad, might as well let them do it one more time before our morning cleaning. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow with episode 6 of the Duck Chronicles.